And that's going to be different for every business. I have a digital product business. So I can, you can't see me, but I've got a calendar behind me and all my launches are on there. I've mapped them out for the year, but I've been in business.
Hmm.
Business should be mostly predictable, at least the calendar by now, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know about the sales, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, right?
It's amazing to me how fast 7 days go. And yes, it is. It's time for another Titan's Tale. And I have a Titan, definitely a Titan for many different reasons. And we can talk about that later. I'll explain. But she is the fresh princess of email. Please help welcome all the way from Orlando, Florida, Liz Wilcox. Welcome,
Hey,
Liz.
hey, friends, I'm really excited.
Liz, can you give us a little background story about you before we like how you got the name Fresh Princess of Email and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I started as an RV travel blogger. That was my first real, dive into entrepreneurship. And I started it as a business. A lot of people start blogs. It's like, oh, it's a hobby. I love talking about XYZ. No, I'm a very efficient chick. I do everything pretty much on purpose. And I wanted to make money. So I started this travel blog. And I got really good at email marketing. I launched my first ebook within 6 months of launching the blog. It made like $7,000 in the first few months, to an audience of just 300. It got picked up by an international sponsor. Roll two when I finally created the digital course, in the online industry, in my industry, everybody and their mother create a course. And so I created one. I had a wait list of 141 people and I sold 141 of those courses. So that's a pretty strong conversion rate. And word
That's
got
a
around.
real good conversion rate.
Right. I mean, it don't get no better.
No,
And
no.
so word got around about that. And I didn't know it. I didn't come from a marketing background. I have degrees in education and leadership. And people were like, wait, how'd you do that? That's when I knew, oh, I'm doing something a little differently than most. Maybe that's what I should be doing with my life. So I sold that travel blog. I went all in on email marketing and specifically, why people introduced me as the Fresh Princess, how that happened is a funny story. I was at a conference and somebody bought or like had made this crown for me. I love the 90s. Okay. If you
Yeah.
can't see me, I've got like a Survivor show hat on. I'm wearing like NSYNC, or I'm sorry, I'm wearing Pooh Bear.
Figure.
I've got NSYNC in the background. I
Yeah.
love like 90s, 2000 pop culture. And so they had made a crown of NSYNC and they were crowning me at this conference for being like an exceptional member of the community. And they said something like the queen of email. And I said, that doesn't sit right. I think I'm the Fresh Princess. And I was just saying it in jest and it just stuck. And that whole community started calling me that. And I said, throw it in the bio. So now here I am.
That's a great story. So you never had a traditional job and just started the blogging. How'd you, why was, how'd you figure out RV was what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. So it wasn't that, oh, I want to talk about RVing. It was, I need something to make me some money. I had bought an RV because I hate cleaning and those things are pretty small. And I hate spending money and those things are pretty cheap, right? So I was married at the time. We bought an RV, we had a toddler. And then I started Googling how to take care of this rig, right? Like how to clean the tanks, how to XYZ, right?
Hmm.
And found these blogs of these people that were traveling in them and they were, in their 20s, 30s, 40s. I'm like, how in the heck are they making enough money to put gas in that thing, let alone, make the payment on it?
Sure.
And that's when I discovered blogging, when I discovered the online industry. I said, well, certainly I could do that. Certainly, very naive. Oh, that's got to be easy. Spoiler alert, it wasn't easy. It wasn't super, super, super hard, but it was a push, right? And so I started the RV travel blog because that's what I was getting into. It was what I was learning about. So it was less of how to RV, right? Because I had no idea, and more of, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing. wouldn't that be funny if you just followed along? And eventually it moved into the how to and things like that. Um,
Those
but
things you learned along the way.
right, it turned into this very sarcastic, ridiculous type of blog of, yeah, everybody and their mother is teaching you that this is an amazing lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm going to give you the real lowdown. And sometimes this is darn right, you know what, crappy,
Yeah,
we'll say.
it just plain sucks.
hmm
Was it a daily blog?
It was a when can I do this and post it blog. So when I
Well, that's what I was
started
gonna
my
ask.
business, I
Yeah.
realized really quickly that email was where it was at. You know, you create a blog so you can collect email addresses and you can sell products to those email addresses, right? Those people that opted in.
Mhm.
And so the moment I launched my blog, the actual little articles was the day I also launched my email list. So for a while I kept up with the consistency of once a week and I would email once a week. And then as I got going, I realized, oh, I should just build the email list. I don't even really need the blog posts. I just need, people like Chris to let me on their podcast or to let me write a blog post for them. I say down with OPP, other people's platforms, right?
That's right.
And so I started letting guest bloggers onto the blog to keep the content running. And I just became kind of the face. And that was when I realized that I was doing something different because people were saying, Liz, you're a blog, like you own a blog, but you don't really blog. How are you making more money than me? And I was like, oh, I just email. I grow my email list. I love talking to people. I mean, hence why I do podcasts, right? I love talking to
Right.
people. I love connecting in that way. And, at that point, I had my own products, digital products, and was doing affiliate marketing, selling
That's
other people's stuff for a commission.
that's what I was asking. I suppose affiliate marketing to your list. Was it affiliate marketing on RV products at the time?
Yeah, so I would get sponsors and I could get affiliate links for certain actual physical products, right? Like water
Mhm.
softeners and filters and, stuff like that, but also digital products. For example, that first product I created, the ebook, I actually made that an affiliate product for other people. I didn't have time to write a book.
Um,
I
yeah.
mention I had a toddler? And so I wrote one chapter, another blogger wrote another, and so on. It was something like 10 or 12 authors. We each had a chapter. It was called Tales from the Black Tank. The Black Tank, side note, is where your sewage goes. So, Tales from the Black Tank, a collection of hilariously crappy RV stories. And so
Yeah.
I gave them affiliate links. Hey, I'm going to compile this. It's going to be under my roof, so to speak. But for anything you sell, you can get 50%. So that's how I grew that book, coupled with, oh my gosh, it's just an outrageous title. How can you not notice it? And that, that's how I personally got started with affiliate marketing.
Forgive me, because when I think about blog, obviously it's content, but people, do you have to subscribe to a blog, or is that how yours was set up? I know it could be free subscription, but you're trading your email for the, or is it something they just look up and they can read it all the time? I'm trying to figure out how do you
Yeah.
set some
Yeah.
things.
So my blog was just a traditional, very simple, you could go to the blog was called The Virtual Campground. So you could go to thevirtualcampground.com, that website. And on the website itself, you could click that blog and that you could read the posts for free. But within that post within every blog post, I had what you call a lead magnet, a reason for them to opt in. Hey,
Hmm.
you just read 5 tips on how to get better Wi-Fi. Do you want 5 more? Give me your email address. I'll send you the link to 5 more or something like that. That's very simple. But yeah, I did. You subscribe to the email list, and the incentive was I would give you, extras.
So you evolved from blog to email marketing, right? You sold your blog
Correct.
content. So when you sold your blogging website, I guess, or blog itself, did you keep your email list?
I sold the whole shebang. So when I say blog, I was blogging as a business. So the blog
Huh?
was the business, right? It
Gotcha.
had the book, the course, the email list, the blog posts, right? The social media. I
Hmm.
sold all of that as one package. And I want to mention, a lot of us entrepreneurs, we start something and we realize a couple years in, I'm just not passionate about this anymore. And I see, especially with bloggers or in the online space, they try to do what Chris said. Oh, I'll keep the email list. And I'll just pivot, right? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm doing a pivot. But listen, you built something of value. Somebody will buy it. And and so I put it up for sale. I wasn't going to try to convince, people who wanted to learn from me about RVing. I wasn't going to try to convince them to start a business and start an email list. That was
Sure.
so disjointed, right? And so I said, well, I'm not going to just hack up and, like close shop, so to speak. This is valuable. This can live without Liz Wilcox. And it did. And it still does today. It's awesome to see that business still moving and grooving.
Well, and the email list you collected was about they were interested in RV information,
Correct.
not about email marketing. So how'd you create an email marketing company then?
Yeah. So, of course, there were people on my email list or, who were friends with me on Facebook that saw me growing this business, saw it succeeding, and were just curious. How
Yeah,
is she doing this? Right. Especially other blogger friends and that sort of network. So
sure.
I legitimately just posted on Facebook. Hey friends, I know you've been seeing me grow my blog for the last 3, 4 years. If you want to do something like that and you want to know how I did it, sign up for this email list. I'm going to start sharing everything I've learned and done in the last 4 years. So I
Hmm.
legitimately, y'all, listen up. This can be very simple. The way I started that email list was just, hey, I'm going to start talking about XYZ over here on this email list. Sign up. And that was it. And people started signing up. People started telling their friends. I started getting on awesome podcasts like this, and it just grew from there.
I have in my notes here that you talk about how an email marketing can take up for some of the faults or the misconceptions of social media. It, I guess when the social media platforms falter. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, listen, raise your hand if you were alive in 2022, right? I think we all were. And, keep your hand raised if you were alive in 2023 when you
Mm,
remember a
still there.
billionaire buying a social media platform and then suddenly that social media platform started imploding upon itself. It changed its name. It lost all of its sponsors. It lost all of its advertising dollars and it lost half of its users.
You wouldn't
Chris,
have to
you
be
know
talking
which
about
one I'm
Elon, would you?
I mean, I don't name names. I'm
Oh,
not
I
here.
hear you. I only know who Elon's last name is, but anyway.
Right, Elon Musk. So Elon Musk bought Twitter, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Now it's named X. It has a new logo, it has a new theme. It has less than half of its users that it did in the start of 2022 and it
Yeah.
has
Less
almost
than half
no.
of its employees. Sorry.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean when I say, we don't own social media. Social media is not a perfect platform to build your audience on. So if you are some type of content creator or you're creating content for your business on social media, and that's where you're driving a lot of business,
Hmm.
I really caution you um, there because we don't own that platform, right? Mark
Right.
Zuckerberg owns Instagram, he owns Facebook, he owns WhatsApp, and he owns this new thing called Threads. That's one guy. If he decided tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure he's the main shareholder. So if he decided tomorrow, I'm done with this, or we're doing it a different way, or, I'm changing the
Oh,
business model,
they do all the
guess what?
time.
Right.
Well,
Amen.
at
Thank
least,
you, Chris.
Meta,
Yes,
the
that's
owner
Meta,
of Facebook,
right?
yeah,
And
but
Meta owns all that
right,
stuff.
and they're
And they
changing. We advertise, and I have customers that we advertise for, and they're changing that. I mean, it aggravates sometimes, and then I think
it can't yeah.
it's just to keep people engaged, I guess, probably just because you gotta because once it's figured out, then it kind of goes on cruise control. So they change it up so that other people are still employed to keep activating
Yeah,
and new
yeah.
ideas and
Right. Well, for whatever reason, you know, the point is we don't own social media. Even if, and there's nothing
Right.
against running ads. If you need to run ads,
Oh,
you have a business, run ads, right?
right.
But the advertising should lead to the email list because you own that email list, right?
It's
If you
yours. Yep.
if you decide you want to use something like Active Campaign and then tomorrow you want to use MailChimp to send out emails, guess what? You can take those addresses with you. Active Campaign or whatever email service provider you're using does not own those addresses. You do. So you can download them, you can take them with you. And that's why I always say, like, yeah, sure, social media ads, great, but
Hmm.
it should all be for the list growth. We're doing all of that in service to grow our
Build the
list.
list.
We have a
That's right.
direct line. We need a direct line to our customers.
And Igor Kafitz, and if you know him or not, he was one of my mentors, and about emailing the the email list was your profit. Basically, that's who you cultivate, you add to, like you said, and then the stuff that you're talking about. I'm sure you do. The email, that's really the deal.
It really is. And with email marketing, to give you a stat, is they say for every dollar you spend with email, you can get up to $40 in return, which I don't know if you're spitting a dollar into Facebook and getting 40 bucks out every single time. Like Chris mentioned,
Yeah,
right? They
hell no.
change it up. They
Yeah,
change up that ad center very often, right? They increase the price, they change how they're pooling people, etc. But with email, that stat has been around for almost a decade and it's still very consistent. And in fact, I did my numbers. So in 2023, for every dollar I spent with email, I made $166 in return. So just growing that list, nurturing it. That's the part that most people miss. They'll grow the list and then they'll
nurturing.
try to sell, but they forget to
Yeah,
nurture. They forget to connect with their email list to make sure their email list knows, hey, I'm invested in you. That way the list invests back into the business.
now you've got a three-step program, or that's kind of your framework, I guess. And so you get the name or the email address, right?
Hmm.
And then you nurture them. Is it more of a newsletter, or is it like a letter that's you send to them to
Yeah,
make them
let's talk
feel?
about let's
Tell,
talk
tell,
about
tell me.
email. Like what the heck is email? How does Liz do it? Yeah. So first thing you got to know is, and this is just my framework, it's just the customer journey. I just break it down really simple, I think is what Chris was alluding to. So first you got a follower, right? Somebody finds
All
you,
right.
get them on your email list, turn them into a friend. Once you have a list full of friends, you can have a list full of customers. So follower, friend, customer, right? That's what I'm trying to do with every one of my new leads, every single person that joins the list. But what the heck? How do I do that, right?
Right.
Well, email really consists of when you join the list, right? I'm going to send you a welcome sequence. Sometimes it's called a nurture sequence. Sometimes it's called, like an opt in sequence, but it's all the same. Just those initial first emails that are automated, right? My email service provider is sending them automatically for me. I
Hmm.
just welcome you onto the email list, right? It's the same way as Chris when he sets up every new episode of The Titan's Tale, right? He's saying, today we're going to talk about this. We're going to have such and such guest. Stay tuned, right? He's setting you up to know what the heck is going on, right? How you're going to spend the next 45 minutes, right? We've got to do that in our email list. So again, welcome them. And then what Chris was saying is the newsletters come next. I usually recommend for almost every business a weekly newsletter. This is just a weekly email, a weekly broadcast where we're sharing updates on what's happening. We're sharing some content. We're sharing some value. This is where we can get creative. If we've got a new podcast episode, we can push that out. If we just want to share some tips, we can push that out. We want to update them on, hey, we just hired someone over here. Or, we just landed this new contract. We're really excited. We brought this new person onto the team. Whatever's happening in the business, let people know that's valuable. That shows like, hey, the business is moving and grooving. Awesome. I want to
Hmm.
be a part of this.
Sure.
And then, of course, you have sales, right? So we've got the welcome sequence, we've got a weekly newsletter pumping out, and then we've got sales. Now, sales interchanges, it works with all of those first two things. You can put sales in the welcome sequence. Hey, don't forget I have this, right? Or hey, this is my signature thing. Hey, I'm going to offer you free and paid products, resources, services, whatever. And then in those newsletters itself, you can do a lot of soft pitching and hard pitching. Let's say I'm going to send out a newsletter today about subject lines. And I give my top couple tips. And then, oh, by the way, I have a training on subject lines. It's $10. Get it here, right? I'm still
Hmm.
providing value in the newsletter. I'm staying top of mind, but I'm also going to pitch that workshop, right? And so you can do that. And then, of course, any business and every business should know, you need to have certain sales cycles, right? You need to be launching or heavily promoting something. And that's going to be different for every business. I have a digital product business. So I can you can't see me, but I've got a calendar behind me and all my launches are on there. I've mapped them out for the year, but I've been in business.
Hmm.
Business should be mostly predictable, at least the calendar by now, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know about the sales, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, right? And so, in my personal calendar, I know March, July, November, I'm doing big pushes for my my main offer, right? So, as far as the sales go, of course, put a little bit in your welcome sequence, share with people your offers when they join the list in the newsletter. Don't be afraid to push out things. And then, of course, you know, find your sales cycles. When are you heavily promoting things? And, when you heavily promote, then we remove the newsletter for a short period of time and we just promo, promo, promo.
So those 3 months, the newsletter's not as prevalent,
Yeah.
or
So, for example, I launch, it's called my annual pass. It's like a year of my membership plus all my products for one low price, right? So, that's like a 5-day sale in March. And so that week, they don't get a newsletter, they get a sales email because they're getting a sales email every day. I'm heavily promoting this. Hey, do you want this? Do you want this? Get it. And of course, I mean, I'm not just asking, I'm giving them reasons on
oh,
why they
sure.
should want it, right? That goes without saying, of course, right?
I
But
assume you're giving bonuses occasionally, say, "Hey,
right,
sign
there's
up today."
bonuses, there's
Whatever,
this,
yeah.
all the bells, all the whistles. I actually love launching, but in that time period, they wouldn't get just a regular newsletter.
I did have some other questions, but one just popped up to me. The way I found you, you were on a podcast, remind me of a workshop, but my colleague, Michael, and some of my virtual assistants were in that same workshop. And they were listening to you, and he said, "Chris, you got to get Liz on your podcast." That's okay.
Ah,
But it was a workshop about membership sites, I think.
oh,
I'm almost sure it was, because you have a very successful membership site, and it's
I
kind of
do.
the
Thank
same
you.
thing we're talking about, right? I mean, is that part of your package? Is the membership site where you can join and learn stuff and be part of that email list, or how's this all work together? I guess.
Yeah, so my main offer is my membership. It's $9 a month. And I send out, I was telling you, oh, you got to send a weekly newsletter. I
Hmm.
send out weekly newsletter templates. So they're sort of plug and play. That's my main offer that I'm constantly promoting. It never ends. What I meant was it never closes, right? Some
Sure.
memberships you can only join at a certain time. So this membership is always open. You can always join for the $9. And that's where in my newsletters, that soft pitching comes into place. I'm giving some tips on subject lines, right? Same
Hmm.
example. Maybe instead of the workshop, I just pitch, oh, by the way, never have to write your own subject line again. I write them for you when you join the membership, and then maybe I give a couple more details and try to pick up people as they come. And that's important to note because, people don't buy when you sell, they buy when they're ready, right? Like
Right.
I might get gasoline once a week and Chris, he's got his construction business, he's got to go every day, right? But that gas station is always open on the corner, right? So we always want to be promoting and that's where that always open membership site comes into play. And what I was mentioning earlier about the launching March, July, November, that's when I bring out something called my annual pass, which is my membership, but it's for a year. So it's $9 times 12 months. That's $108. And you might be saying, okay, Liz, there's absolutely no incentive other than maybe I don't want to get charged every month. But when you join for the year, when you say, yep, I'm in for a year, Liz, here's $108, I actually give access to all my other products for a whole year. And so that's where the launching
That's the
comes in.
bonus type thing. Yeah.
That's the bonus, right? Get
Okay.
everything else. And it's kind of like, honestly, I stole the idea from Costco. I thought, Costco's got to be a Fortune 500 company, if not close.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's got Costco. And wait a second, their membership, that's how they make all their cash. Like they don't make really any profit off what they're selling inside the store. They
Mm-mm.
make it off the membership fee, right? That's $60 you pay them every year. They've got millions of people and that's their profit. I thought, I don't need millions of people. I'm just one lady. I don't have lease land contracts and building and employees and workers' comp and, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Certainly, maybe if I got 1,000, 2,000 people, I could make a decent living.
Sure.
And so that's where the $108 idea came from. That's where it came from. Hey, commit to a year and I'm going to commit back to you. Here's everything else. You don't have to spend another dime with me. And so it does two things for me, right? It keeps my members in the membership, right? That's why Chris said, oh, it's a successful membership because people stay, right? Because they're offered this incredible bonus. And it also, because my membership is $9, that's not a lot of cash. Even though
Oh, no.
even at 1,000 people, that's only $9,000 a month. While that's enough, just for me, but as the business grows, we need more, right? So it also allows for a really nice, juicy cash injection that I can ensure, memberships aren't going to go away. Now we've got a good cushion here and it's going to last us for XYZ. And to be honest, we put that to the test this year. This year, I was on a show called Survivor, and I was barely able to work. Being on national TV is a lot. And so I actually shut that launch down. I said, we're not going to launch it for another year. We did a Black Friday launch in 2024. We're not going to launch it again until Black Friday. And we have been sort of living off of those rebills, those people who signed up a year before it's rebuild and the giant cushion that last Black Friday gave us. And we're recording this about a month before Black Friday. And I would say we're at about an eighth of a tank. but I will say that, really putting that launch model to the test or putting that annual pass cushion to the test. And it's worked. Honestly, it's worked in my favor. We've had more than enough money to pay myself, pay my other full-time employee. And I even bought a house this year with 20% down. So it was more than enough cash.
I've got so many questions, and I will come back to the Survivor.
Yeah, that was a
thing.
lot. That was a lot.
I can't let go, but we're going to talk about Survivor here in a minute. When it comes to email marketing, how often is too much?
That's up to you and your subscribers, right?
Yeah.
I've seen people email daily and have great metrics. I've seen people, email a few times a week, great metrics. I personally email about once a week, and that works well for me.
Mm-hmm.
There are phases and stages where I email more. Of course, like I said, when I'm launching something at the end of the year, the last quarter, I usually email a lot more because I want to keep people's momentum up. I want to have them, push to the finish, so to speak. And I've got that Black Friday sale. So I want them to think of me. And that's where we can really decide when is enough because you have to email enough to stay top of mind, right? If people think of email marketing, I want them to think Liz Wilcox, right? That's always my number one goal. When you say email, someone else says Liz Wilcox, but that's never going to happen if I don't email you, right?
Absolutely.
And so thinking about your customer base, what is appropriate for them, but also how can I stay top of mind? And so I think there's, it's like Luther Vandross, never too much, never too much, right? But there is too little. Once a month for a lot of businesses tends not
Mm,
to be enough. They're not going to stay
yeah,
top of mind.
mine. Yeah.
Right. Now, of course, if we're talking about Chris and his contracting company, once a month is probably enough. They don't need a weekly newsletter about what's going on in his business. But I think once a month is enough to say, hey, this is what we're working on. This is what we're building. These are the neighborhoods we're breaking ground in this week, etc. Just a newsletter once a month would probably help him bring back a lot more repeat customers or even referrals, right? If
Sure.
he just once a month popped in and said, hey, we've got X amount of spots, or we just brought in a new worker, that means we have more capacity. If you know a guy, have him call us, right? That would probably build, create some momentum in his business. But if you have a business where, the stages of the customer are much shorter, right? If Chris is working with a customer on a build, that could take 6 months, 24 months, 36 months.
Depends
It
on how
really
busy they
depends on
are.
the
Yeah.
client. It really depends on the client. So that's why I recommend once a month for him. But if you've got someone, you
Like
have
my
lots of,
podcast, that might be a weekly thing, right?
right, with your podcast, you want to you want to stay top of mind. You want somebody who listens. You want them to listen every week. So you're going to
Mhm.
promote every week. If you say you come up with a digital product or a mastermind or a Patreon, we got to stay top of mind. That's a shorter cycle there with the customer's attention span. So yeah, it really depends on the business. But I would say 95% of businesses, once a week is a great cadence. And even for someone like me, who, my customers really need help with email marketing, they need a lot of attention. Um, I'm not opposed to daily emails.
So I'm a listener. Listen to Liz right now thinking, boy, $9 a month, that's cheap. That's good. I can do that. But I hate sending emails, or I don't know how to write emails, or what other services do you provide or offers that you say? So if I join it all, what kind of other stuff am I going to get if I join the full meal deal?
Yeah. So I do a lot of workshops, right? So
Yeah.
let's say with the membership, I rate your emails for you. But if you're ready to go further, if you're, okay, I'm a little past the beginner stage, I have offers for that, right? Do you need to launch? We talked about launching a couple minutes ago. Oh, well,
Right.
Liz, what is launching? How do I launch a digital product, or how do I launch my Etsy shop or whatever, right? I have an entire course on that. That's $500 and you get it for free with the annual pass, which is why it's so valuable, right?
Heck yeah.
And that around Black Friday, I do a Black Friday training where I teach you how to come up with your Black Friday offer, how to get people excited about it, and give you templates for the week itself of Black Friday. Around the beginning of every year, remember we mentioned welcome sequences and how important it is to welcome subscribers onto your list, set expectations, etc. At the
Mhm.
beginning of the year, because I recommend you do this once a year. You got to zhuzh it up. The way you talk right now is not the way you're going to talk in a year from now, right? We're always refining our brand and our business. And so in January, I do a live workshop. Hey, come and write your welcome sequence with me. It's usually 2 or 3 hours and you get it done. So lots of different things like that, depending on your stage of business. I've got an offer for you. And I love that type of business because it allows me to serve a lot of different people. I'm talking about the same thing over and over, but there's so many different things I could do and help and say about email marketing.
When I consult some of my clients, I talk about delegating. Is this something we could delegate to a virtual assistant?
Oh, absolutely. What I love about my membership is just give me the $9. I don't care who logs in. uh, you know,
Well, that ain't
and
what I meant,
it's,
but okay.
but
But what I meant
yeah,
was,
so
is that
this with the emails themselves, Yeah, you log in, you get a template. If there is someone like a virtual assistant or, you've got an admin that, hey, I know email marketing is important, but I can't do it. Absolutely let someone else do it. And yeah, if you joined my membership, I like to keep my business incredibly simple. A lot of people are like, Liz, you should have tiers. If someone's bringing on their assistant or their team, you should have a tier for that. But y'all, that seems really complicated. I don't feel like setting that up. So,
Well, it's
I
simple and that's
love,
nice.
yeah, I love being able to say, yeah, just come on in, log in if you need to. But yeah, you should definitely, if you're thinking about email, but it feels like too much and you have a team, definitely delegate your email marketing because it is that important. Someone should be doing it.
And that's great when, I mean, even, okay, let's say I buy and I give it to my virtual assistant and say, hey, log in with these credentials, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to refer somebody else to you too, because it's such a great deal. It's just a referral program. It's like, hey, here you go. Liz is the way. Make it happen. And oh, by the way,
Yeah.
if you don't want to do it, then find somebody to do it for you.
Right. I love that you just brought that up. So, Chris brought up a great point about how I've been able to grow the membership itself also is I do have an affiliate or referral program. So, let's
Oh,
say
yeah.
Chris put this membership in the show notes of the podcast, I would say, "Oh,
Yes,
Chris,
I
you want an affiliate link?" And even though it's $9, it's not you're not going to make a million, right, off referrals of me, but it is a nice little kickback. I give you 50%, $4.50. And for a lot of my people who are beginning, they in their entrepreneur journey, that's like, oh, I'm going to tell my friend and my other friend. And now I get the membership paid for, right? Because
yeah.
Liz is giving me $4.50 times two. That's $9. Oh, I'm getting my membership for free. So that's one of the ways I've been able to grow the membership so quickly without advertising is I do have that generous affiliate program and I do work really well and the membership works really well for those beginners who are still, working in pods, so to speak, sharing with their business friends, etc.
I was at a construction company. That's one of my businesses. And I've got a database of past customers. And most people, once you build a house for them or a barn or whatever, they don't really have the need for another house unless they're really doing well. But that would be good for a referral type of business. And obviously, the Titan's Tail would be more like, here's what's coming up. But for a Titan's Tail, I'm always trying to grow with new listeners. So how do you build, and maybe part of your program, do you teach us how to build our email list?
Yeah. So in the membership itself, there's a list building mini course that just comes free no matter what, because it is so important. I always tell my new subscribers, they say, oh, it's not working. I'm trying. And I said, well, when was the last time you got a new person on your email list? Email, y'all, is like water. If water gets stagnant, what do? You don't bleach it. You don't try harder to make it fresh. You just get new, fresh water flowing in, right? And it's
Hmm.
the same with your email list. So, of course, in the membership, I teach you, I think it's like a dozen plus examples how to grow your email list without advertising. And yeah, because the main goal with anything is how do I find new people, new people? Repeat customers are great. And I teach you, that as well. But we've always got to get a fresh, steady flow of new leads. So, yeah, we
Hmm.
definitely cover that.
Before I get into the survivor thing, what kind of expectation of, and I'm sure it probably depends on the person or the business, but so if I start an email campaign tomorrow, what kind of, is it like a 90-day before you even get any data to know how you need to change it, or 6 months worth of just continuous, or even is there a special number in your email list that you should hit before you even expect anything in return?
Yeah, it's so different. Every customer base, is going to buy differently, right?
Right.
And what I suggest is just, again, sending those weekly newsletters because that's just a weekly connection point and trying the soft pitching, right? Hey, I've got this. try out a flash sale, just try things, but real and pay less attention to the numbers and pay more attention to how can I connect. And one of the markers that I really suggest that your email service provider actually isn't going to track for you, you just have to know, is replies. If you can get replies to your newsletters, you know you have connected with your audience, right? So if I sent out an email, and right now you might say, "Oh, Liz, I've tried that. Nobody ever replies." Well, that's because you're not connected to your audience. So anytime I send out an email nowadays, I don't even have to ask for replies and people will reply back. But
Mhm.
when I do, I can expect an influx of my inbox. And how do we get started with replies? Is to just start asking very simple yes or no questions. If you've tried to get replies, nobody clicks, nobody opens, we're definitely not getting replies. You're asking too complicated of questions. Remember, I shared my email staircase follower, friend, customer?
Mhm.
You're asking customer and friend questions when they are not either one of those things yet. So we need to ask follower questions, people we just met questions. And these are yes or no questions. Things in the front of the brain I can answer immediately without thinking of them. For example, mine might be, do you write a weekly newsletter? Hit reply yes or no. And that's actually in my welcome sequence. It's the first question I ask you. And every day I get, well, kinda, or
Yeah.
yes, or no, that was the plan, but da da da. They always answer more, right? But it gets them opening up, right? And so in those beginning stages, in that welcome sequence, and in the beginning stages of trying to connect with your audience, make sure you're asking very simple yes or no questions, and
Mhm.
you'll start to connect with your audience. You'll start to have conversations in the inbox. And a good entrepreneur always knows, it's not about closing the sale, it's about opening up a conversation, right? So let's try to open up those conversations in our list. That's what we should really, really be focused on when we're starting our email marketing, when we're starting to take it seriously.
That is the exact opposite of what they tell a podcast guest because we don't want yes no questions. We want deep down, meaty answers. But for the most part, if you're looking for just a response, any interaction is a good reaction when it comes to email, right? So yes and no, that's great. This was not planned, everybody, because Liz has been on my calendar for a while, and I know now why she was been so late in getting on.
MIA.
Yeah, MIA. There you go. So obviously, if you're on YouTube, you can see this, but if you're listening in your car right now, Liz has a hat on that says Survivor. And I thought, well, I asked Liz, I said, what's that about? And she just got done with this season. I guess it's been broadcast, right? Of being
Correct.
a survivor. The show Survivor turned out to be fourth out of 18 contestants, which is awesome. But tell us a little bit more about that, Liz, before we go, if you would.
Yeah, so, speaking of Titans, I just consider myself someone that can do whatever I want to do, and not in a cocky way. I just have that, if you want something, go for it, I guess is a better way. And
Sure.
I've always loved that show, and I always thought, I think I could win that show. I think I could do really well. And it's so funny. I was watching with my daughter. It's our Wednesday night ritual. And I guess I had said it enough. One day I said, oh my gosh, I think I could get on that show. She was like, are you going to talk about it or are you going to do it?
Oh
And I
yeah.
was like, well, I'm not going to be shown up by no 7-year-old now. And it just kind of snapped me into, yeah, Liz, you are the type of person that if you want something, you go for it. And I applied the next day. They emailed me back about 15 minutes later with a more formal application. They called me a few hours later, and 6 months later, they accepted me onto the show. I went out and I played. It's been a great and terrible experience all at the same time, as you can imagine. And if you don't know much about Survivor, it's 18 contestants, one winner. You vote each other off. You live outside. It really is a very real show. And I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about grace for myself. I'm a highly competitive person. I got almost to the finish line, and fell short. And that was something that I had to, and still do, process when I consider myself such a winner. But when I think about it, when I told Chris, yeah, I got fourth place, he was like, wow, that's really, really good. And I have to remind
It
myself,
is.
yeah, it is really, really good. And I beat almost everyone. And I did it, being allergic to coconut and some other foods that you can find on the island. Yeah, overall, great experience. I love the title of this podcast because when I think about that in particular, I'm like, yeah, I did do something pretty exceptional and I worked really hard at it. But I did it in my own way as well. And honestly, doing it in my own way, I think is what got me so freaking far. And what makes me feel so good about the experience.
If you think about it, you did it for, well, you did it for yourself, obviously, and more of a, you wanted to, and your daughter said, well, get off, let's make this happen. But a lot of people, I'm assuming, in there went to it to get their foot in the door in, say, movies and be an actor or actress. And their goal is to stay on there as long as possible. Yeah, the goal might be to win the $1 million, but you went in and you lasted. How many episodes are there in a season?
There's 13 episodes. I was in every episode. I lasted 25 out of 26 days.
Yeah. So you were in all 13 episodes?
Correct. I was only not in like the last 20 minutes of the show.
You know what? How many people that was their goal, was just to,
Yeah,
be
maybe.
known. Yeah. And then I want to see you in the movies here soon or another show or whatever.
people
But
people ask me, "Oh, Liz, you were so fun. You were meant for TV." But honestly, I don't know if I was. I would love to do Survivor again simply because
yeah,
it wasn't that I wanted to be on TV. I just wanted to play Survivor.
correct. And that's what I meant. You're there for a different
Hmm.
reason. And
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is great.
And it was so fun for me. I'd love to play again. I don't know if they would invite me back simply because I do have a lot of food allergies and that was
That
a
was a
concern of
struggle.
theirs.
Yeah.
But you never know. You never know. Anyway, it was a great experience. Thanks for asking.
One last question, because you talk about the
Of
90s.
course.
I looked up your picture. I, I have, we do research obviously before we get on here together. And you're in this, you have this headband, and it reminds me of a workouts from the 90s. Is that I assume that's on purpose.
Well, to be honest, this is just how I look. I love a headband. I will tell y'all, I started wearing headbands because I started having an insecurity about my forehead. My hair started thinning in my late 20s, which
Yeah.
I guess is normal, but I mean, not that I'm bald or anything. But for me, I'm someone who always had super thick hair, and then I had a child, and my hair just didn't really grow back. And all I could see was my brother. And now, y'all, my brother is bald. And so I started wearing this
Oh,
headband.
yeah.
And then it started becoming kind of like this signature look. And I was like, oh, I'll just roll with it. So it's
It
very funny.
looks good on you.
Thank you. I'm not wearing a headband right now, but usually I have lots of headbands. And it's so funny you mention it because when I was cast for Survivor, even some of the producers were like, "Are you wearing that headband because you want us to be thinking about you in a buff?" Because they wear buffs, like those big giant
Oh,
headbands.
right.
And I said, "No, this is just Google me. This is just my look, baby." And the last thing I'll say about it is I started growing my hair out after coming home from the show because I had lost 14% of my body weight. I had, my nutrients were out of whack. And I was trying to get better and trying to grow my hair back. And so I was like, I'll just leave it alone. I got to stop wearing headbands, stop wearing hats. And I just recently cut my hair back to what it looks like if you Google me. And everyone, I can't go anywhere right now without someone saying, "Are you Liz from Survivor? I knew that was you." And I said, "Oh, my signature look is back. All right, all right. I'm feeling more like myself now." So that's so funny you brought that up.
Well, Liz, I can tell you're a lot of fun. You got Tigger on, you got your Survivor hat on. How would people get hold of you?
Yeah, of course. I'm an email marketer, so I want you to join my email list, right? You can go
Absolutely.
directly to lizwilcox.com. In the top right hand corner, there's a hot pink button. You can't miss it. It's going to give you access to a welcome sequence template. We talked about how important that was, right? It's going to give you 3 newsletter samples directly from my membership if you want to check out what those kind of look like. And it's going to give you 52 subject lines for a year full of prompts, all for free. LizWilcox.com, hot pink button.
Hot pink button. And below in the show notes, you can find my affiliate link to
Yes.
Liz Wilcox. $9 a month. You can't beat that. And if you do it on the right day, you can really get some bonuses. Liz, thank you very much. Oh, I sometimes forget that I got to promote myself. So at the bottom, also,
Yes.
you're going to find Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for Chris Gilman. Get me there. And as always, you can go to titanstail.com, go to the guest list, and you'll find all the information about Liz and what she does there as well. Liz, thank you very much. It's been a great Titan, and you are a Titan for sure. I got 13 episodes to prove it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, bye bye.